I've been asked the question by children and adults when it comes to the Apostles' Creed, why does it say Jesus descended into hell? And a quick Google search shows you that people I've talked to are not the only ones that are confused. This is one of the big questions out there for people who are trying to figure out why the early church would suggest that Jesus needed to be in hell because, right, hell's a bad place where endless torment and fire and all that kind of stuff. So here's the deal. When the Apostles' Creed was written, and by the way, it wasn't written by the Apostles, it was written about a century or two later by people who wanted to give credit to the Apostles. So, first of all, right off the hop, it was not written by the earliest followers of Jesus, but they wanted to sum up Jesus' life in a statement of their belief and their faith. And when it came to Jesus' death, they referred to him going to the place of the dead. Now, the English translation of that was hell. English is a very difficult language to work with because sometimes we have one word that means five or six different words in another language, and hell is one of them. So there's a few things that were hell in the early church. One of them was this idea of the fire that would purify you, but it was like a metalsmith or a blacksmith using it, putting items in to kind of rub off the bad stuff. So rub off the things that you needed to work on, make you a better version of yourself. And then you were done. You weren't staying there forever. Then you were done. Then you came out. So that's one version of hell in the Bible. Another version is called Gehenna. Gehenna was essentially Jerusalem's garbage dump, and uh, it was an endless fire because they were constantly burning the rubbish of the city of Jerusalem. And if you were a poor person, like destitute, had no other options, often you would find yourself camped around where the fire was. And I mean, we see it today in some of the poorest places of the world. People live by garbage dumps and sort through garbage dumps to get their basic needs met. So that unfortunately has not changed with time. So when it talks about the endless fire, Gehenna was something they were talking about. Another word used for hell is Sheol. We see that a lot in the Hebrew scripture. Sheol was basically the place of the dead. And when the Greeks kind of started to be interested in the Hebrew tradition, and they read the Hebrew scriptures, and they wanted to worship and identify as Hebrew peoples, they brought their own term, Hades. So Sheol and Hades had a kind of an intermingling of understanding. But again, all of these things individually are about resting places or purifying or being in a bad situation in life. It was not an endless torment of afterlife. And that's where most modern Christians trip up when it comes to our understanding of the word hell, because we see it and we automatically think of the modern version that has been helped along by artwork and bad theology and a very little explanation. A lot of churches have actually changed the wording of the creed. So it now says instead of Jesus went down to hell, they said Jesus went to the dead and then he rose again, which is much more honest to the original writers of this creed. So if it helps, just remove the word hell altogether. It is not about Jesus going someplace for endless torment. The people of Jesus' day didn't even have that as a concept. So we can be absolutely sure that was not what they meant. They meant that Jesus went to Sheol, to Hades. He was with the dead for 3 days. In fact, I believe there's a tradition, a Hebrew tradition, that after 3 days, uh, the body is accepted to be dead. That in that period of time, there could be a possibility that they come back from the dead. So 3 days had to be honored to make sure Jesus was good and dead for the resurrection to be legitimate. Now that's Hebrew tradition. I'm not sure how that influenced the early thinkers of all of this writing, but it's just an interesting little tidbit to show that death is always something that people have to grapple with. We in modernity have kind of put it away. We don't talk about it too much, which is probably why this particular part of the creed really throws us. Because what is this business about Jesus being in hell? Jesus wasn't in uh, multimedia TV hell that we use in popular culture. Jesus was merely with the dead for 3 days until he rose again.